So
Awesome.
aloha and welcome to iTeach808, Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology Conference sponsored by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Maddie and I will be facilitating this session. We're so honored to have Traci Piltz join us today as she shares her expertise through a 45-minute presentation titled Coding with Littles Using Scratch Junior. Please be aware that we will be recording this session. If you do not like being recorded, you may consider turning off your camera during the session or reviewing the recording afterwards. The recording will be made available on YouTube and shared on iTeach808's website a week after the event. Without further ado, I turn it over to you, Traci.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen showing here. There we go. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm super excited to be here. I'm sure everybody says this. I'm up in Montana, so while I love being able to connect virtually, I do wish I was actually able to join you in person, but I'll take this as well. So I'm happy to share about coding with littles using both Scratch Junior and PBS Kids Scratch Junior, both free apps. Let's see, sorry, and just making sure you guys can see my screen. I just got like a weird little message. So, okay, good, okay. I dropped the link to the slides into the chat box. There's also a bit.ly right here, so you can grab a link to the slides from the bit.ly too if you want to follow along. I also put lots of links and resources in there that you can reference later if you grab those slides. So again, my name is Traci Piltz. I am in Billings, Montana. I taught kindergarten both in Arizona and here in Montana for about 12 years. I started getting into technology kind of when iPads first started becoming a thing in our classrooms. It was something I was just curious and wanted to learn more about. So I was an early adopter of technology. Through a grant, I had one of the first one-to-one iPad classrooms here in our district. And then after that experience, I was asked to take on the role of tech integration specialist here in our district as more teachers began implementing and integrating technology just to support those early learning classrooms. So for the past 7 years, I've been able to work supporting our kindergarten through second, third grade teachers as they begin using technology in their classrooms. So again, I'm super happy to be here sharing one of my favorite things to do with teachers and students, which is coding. So I'm super excited to share these free apps with you. I can't remember if I put it in here or not, but I do just want to make sure I refer to the app. My experience using them has been on an iPad. That's what we use primarily with our K2 students. If you have an Android device or a Chromebook, if you can get to the Google Play Store, you can also download these from the Google Play Store. So they're apps that can be used on iPads, Android tablets, and Chromebooks, just so you know. I think I referenced that in here, but I just want to be sure upfront that you do know that you can use these on your Chromebooks as well, if that's what you have with your students. So what we're going to be chatting about in the next 40 minutes or so is just why teach kids to code. Hopefully you'll have some ideas to share in that conversation. What is PBS Kids Scratch Junior and Scratch Junior? I'll share some examples and do a little demo of the app, and then hopefully we'll have some time for you to explore and answer questions. If you do have a device in front of you that you'd like to download the app on, if you haven't already, you could be playing along as I'm talking. Again, there's two apps that we'll talk about. They work the same. One is PBS Kids Scratch Junior, and then the other one is regular Scratch Junior. So to begin, I'm going to show you this quick video. I think it does a really nice job of sort of talking to that question, why teach coding? So I'm going to play this.
Coding is the new literacy. When we think about reading and writing, we think about words on a written page, but coding is the language that computers speak in.
The way we define coding is creating a series of instructions that tells a computer or another piece of technology what to do.
Gosh, when we think about computer coding, we think about people sitting somewhere in a dark room in front of a great big monitor, and they know this secret language that no one else knows except them. But what I've learned with PBS Kids Scratch Junior is that everyone can code. It's a language that we can all learn and that we can all speak.
It's not a bunch of zeros and ones. It's not even really an unfamiliar language. There's a lot of easy ways that you can implement it in the classroom.
When you use PBS Kids Scratch Junior app on your mobile device, each of those blocks do a different thing. You're putting them together in a sequence, and you're creating anything that you want to create.
Educators do not need to be proficient in coding to teach kids to use this app.
Teachers are able to very quickly understand how to use it as a learning tool in their classroom. And really and truly, if the teacher gives the kid the go-ahead, the students are going to be able to teach the teacher.
I have definitely, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I've definitely found that statement to be true. Once they figure out, what they're doing and get just that little boost, I'm really always blown away. I was in 5 classrooms yesterday, kindergarten, first and second, and we all did a different lesson using PBS Kids or regular Scratch Junior. And the teachers and I both said, wow, there were buttons and blocks and things on there that I hadn't shown them that they, again, explored and investigated and figured out how to use to really improve the project that they were creating. So I put a little Jamboard on here. I'd love to get your thoughts. I'm going to drop this. If you've got the slides, you can click on the link and hop on this Jamboard. I'll put that link in the chat as well. If you're not familiar with Jamboard, you should be able to just grab a little sticky note from over here, the little square with the lines, and then you can add a sticky note anywhere on this canvas, just kind of speaking to that question, why are we teaching kids to code? If you'd like, you can also just unmute. We've got a nice size group here, but small enough that we won't be talking over each other. So you're also welcome at any time to just unmute, ask a question, or share. I'd also love to hear whether you just share that by unmuting or drop it onto the Jamboard, kind of your experience with coding, if this is something new to you, if you've been coding and you're just looking for more ideas. I'd love to sort of hear where you're at in that journey. So again, if you want to drop that into the Jamboard or just unmute, I'll just stop talking for a couple of seconds or a minute or so to give you some time to do that. I love that. I see critical thinking skills, that step-by-step thinking and problem solving. We did a debugging lesson yesterday. We were actually using code.org in second grade yesterday, which is another one of my favorites. But that debugging where they really look step by step at what they've put together and identify maybe where some bugs or some problems are, and then be able to fix that. I think that's such an amazing skill that applies to much more than computer science and coding. Okay, tried to learn coding a few years ago. It was hard. I always tell this story too. I am not, I never considered myself a techie person. This is definitely not something that comes easy to me. I was in a PD group called iTeach808 for years. And every year we were in this PD group, our leader would say, okay, now we're going to do some coding. And all of us, we were all K2 teachers, were like, let's do that next time. And I think for 3 years, we said, let's do that next time, because none of us were confident. We didn't know what it was. We finally started, I think at the time, what I used was a very simple app called Daisy the Dinosaur. And we did a little codable as well, a couple of sort of real simple apps. We dug in during Hour of Code. I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. I was very impressed by how the students really, you give them that tiny bit of a start, and they really are able to kind of take it and run with it. And they truly did. I learned right along with them. And again, we're talking kindergarten. I was working with 5-year-olds, and I just told them, I'm learning too. This is new to Mrs. Piltz. So if you figure something out, come show me. And they loved that. So I really kind of just had to get over my own fear and apprehension of using it. And now I've sort of just taught myself how to use a few of these programs. I'm by no means a computer science or coding expert, but I've taught myself enough of these programs that I feel comfortable going in and sort of getting kids started. And again, just kind of letting them take it from there, which is really exciting to watch. So exciting to see many of you are new to coding. So I'm really excited that you took the time this morning to join. Okay, good, Claire, that works. I'm ready for the 21st century. Okay, awesome. And absolutely, I mean, like they said in that video, coding is a new literacy. This is becoming a foundational skill. So just kind of giving our students the opportunity to learn. I tell this story all the time too, but I have a son, he graduated from high school last year. And when he was young, I mean, there really were no opportunities for coding when he was in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. So by the time he got to a place where maybe he could have chosen to take some computer science classes, I think he felt like us. He was really reluctant because it was not anything that he had ever had the chance to try before or do, and he knew nothing about it. And so that was just nothing that he ever even explored, where we know now how many wonderful opportunities there are for our students as they grow up career-wise to be able to engage in some kind of computer science. So I really like the idea of giving these young learners an opportunity to try this, to become familiar, so that at least it's not something scary to them like it can be to some of us. And when they get to that point where they can choose the ones who really enjoy it and love it, maybe it will be something that they choose to pursue. So good. I love all of your notes. Keep adding. And again, feel free to unmute if you have questions or anything to add as well. The other part I love about this video is the simplicity. I think I always struggled with the words. I didn't understand coding enough to be able to explain it to kids. And I really like how it's directions. Code is breaking down the steps and giving directions to our games or our computer or our iPads and telling it what to do. And so we do a lot of kind of unplugged things. Simon Says is one of my favorite things to play. I give them some Simon Says directions. And then after we play, I say, wow, I just coded you. You were little robots. I gave you directions. And what I said, Simon says, you did what I asked you to do. So I ran the code and you were my robot. So I think really breaking it down to that simple code is directions, to tell that computer or that device or that program what to do, and then practice using some of these apps and programs. It never wants us to play it again. There we go. So you touched on some of these. I think coding can be a great way to show what you know. It can be a really creative way to have them, tell facts. I saw a really cool idea on Twitter from a teacher I follow, Christine Dixon, and she had students, after they learned the life cycle of a butterfly, they used coding to code that life cycle of a butterfly. So what a cool way to show something that they learned. Storytelling is probably my favorite, especially when I teach Scratch Junior. That's what I tell the kids. We're we're trying to tell a story. And now you get to use code to animate your story. You get to make your characters move. Problem solving, like you mentioned, and collaboration. Yesterday I went into a class, I was in two second grade classrooms, and we were going to do Scratch Junior. One of the classes, for some reason, the app didn't get put onto her iPads, and we panicked for a minute, and then we just said, you know what, we could pair them up. And gosh, watching them work together was probably the best part of my whole day, because they were having those conversations. We wanted to do this. How do we make that happen? They were doing such an awesome job of giving each other a turn, taking turns. So even just talking through those processes and the collaboration piece, I think, can be so rewarding. So this is Scratch Junior. You might recognize this little cat. There are links, like I mentioned, on these slides to take you to some resources. Again, I think both Scratch Junior and PBS Kids Scratch Junior do such a nice job of providing resources and lesson ideas to help you as a teacher feel supported as you get started. So there's a whole list of activities and resources. There's a Scratch Junior Connect page here, so you can connect with other teachers and ask questions. So I think that there are a lot of great supports in place for teachers who want to get started and just really aren't sure where to get started. So again, all of these are clickable links to explore a little bit more. A couple of examples I'll show you. I think these are, one of them is from a first grader, one of them is from a second grader.
Oh no, I'm melting, oh no. Olivia, sit down. I'm melting, no.
And then here's one we did right before Christmas. Something I love about Scratch Junior is how they can add in their own drawings. So you'll notice both of these are kind of a combination of using some of the elements already in the program, and then they've drawn and add their own characters. So again, I told you I really love this storytelling piece. I love that they can come up with their own characters, make it tell a story, retell a story by adding elements that they create. And I think it really helps them take ownership over those projects. There we go. And I will, in a second, we'll go through these slides, and then I'll kind of get on my iPad and show you how the app works as well. PBS Kids Scratch Junior is basically just the PBS Kids version of this same app. They're both free. They're both awesome. The PBS Kids version has backgrounds and characters from PBS Kids shows. I find particularly with kindergarten and first grade, they connect with this one because they recognize a lot of the shows and they recognize a lot of the characters. So they get really excited about using this because they get to code some of those favorite characters from the shows that they watch. Something I love about the PBS lessons is that they do have, I think 6 or 7 lessons here. They're scaffolded. So I always start at the top here with the tree problem, but I just kind of want to show you how detailed these plans are. So there's an overview, there's learning goals. It shows you the vocabulary that you might want to know. And when you hover over it, it explains what that vocabulary means. There's materials. They do have design handouts. If you want your students to kind of storyboard it first, you can do that. It gives them, again, here's that Simon Says activity idea. It gives them some time to explore, and it shows you exactly what these blocks, the things that they're going to be using. And then if you click these, you can learn more. So again, all of these just supports as a teacher to help you as a teacher feel confident using this program. All of the PBS Kids lessons tie into a PBS Kids show. So for example, this first one is Peg plus Cat. So there's a little 10, 11-minute video clip that the students can watch. It ends with a problem that they need to solve. And so then the student's task is to go into the app, use the, let's see if I can make it bigger, use the stickers on the backgrounds in the app to kind of recreate the problem in the episode. And then they'll draw and code to help Peg and Kat solve that problem. So all of the PBS Kids lessons are set up again, like this, with all of these ideas, all of these supports. I found it helped me focus. I started using Scratch Junior sort of in explore mode, like, here you go, click around, use the buttons and figure it out, because I didn't really know how to use it. That was fine. Some of the kids figured it out, but the projects really were pretty disjointed and chaotic, and not really focused. They loved just adding stickers, and so it kind of just became a jumble. So I do really like that these lessons set it up with a little chunk of time to explore, and then it does kind of focus them to create and figure out how to use all of these things together to make a cohesive project. So again, really nice supports here. I also put a little link to PBS Learning Media that has other resources and supports. The download link is here. I believe the Scratch Junior one is on the other slide, both for the iOS app and then the Google Play app that can go onto Chromebooks and Android devices. I showed you this page with all of those resources, and then I'll show you a quick example of that tree problem. This is from kindergarten. So again, a pretty simple problem that we set up. Peg and Kat are in the tree. We set it up in our app to put them in the tree. Now, how are we going to get them down? A lot of them come up with the idea of drawing a ladder. So then they draw their ladder, and then we use those coding blocks to get them out of the tree and down that ladder. And so we really talk about, again, the animation, making it move. That's what makes this even better than just being able to draw this picture, is now we get to put that movement in there and help them solve that problem. You'll also notice I'm using screen record on the iPad. One thing I wish this app had is a save button. There's not an easy way to save these projects. So I am using screen record on the iPad, and let me know if you need to learn more about that. I can show you to basically just screen record a video, save it to the camera roll, and then it can be shared out wherever you share. We use a lot of Seesaw in our district, so then we can upload those projects to Seesaw and share with our classmates and our families. Here's a couple more examples. Again, they can use the stickers, but they can also create and draw their own characters. They can add text and dialogue. There's a caption area, and then there's a little talking bubble that they can add as a block, so they can add dialogue in there. And then you notice in one of those examples, she had the snowman talking, so they can also add audio elements. There's a microphone, and they can make those characters speak with their voice as well. This is kind of how I share via Seesaw. This is an example of a Seesaw activity where I wanted them to, this is actually when I was remote. I taught remote first grade last year. So I had kind of set it up as a remote activity, telling them what to do and having them plan it out first. So there is a link to that Seesaw activity if you want to take a peek at how I set that one up to share with them via Seesaw. So I now want to just take a minute to look at the app itself. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. While I'm doing this, are there any questions so far? Any comments, questions, please? Again, unmute and share. Okay. All right, hopefully you can see my iPad screen now. So I'm just going to go ahead and use I'll just open the PBS Kids Scratch Junior just to kind of show you how we set up that project that I just showed you, that tree problem. Again, once they learn one or the other, it works exactly the same in both. It's just kind of a difference of the stickers and the characters that they have access to. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my PBS Kids one. It opens to this screen, and I'm going to go ahead and say start. I push on the plus sign to start a new project. Probably the trickiest part of all is getting the sticker. In the PBS Kids one, it always has dot. In the Scratch Junior one, it always shows up with that cat. And if they don't want it in there, they have to get this character out. And we try a million things. I always try to just kind of throw it away. To get rid of her, you just kind of have to hold down for a second or two until she starts to jiggle, and then hit that X. So sometimes, especially our pre-K and kinders, the fine motor skills, that takes some help and a little bit of practice. But now I have my blank canvas. My characters are over on the left. And I introduce this to kids pretty much how I'm going to introduce it to you. We usually follow that lesson plan, talk a little bit about coding, do that Simon Says activity. I always have my iPad projected onto the screen so they can see what you're doing. And we go through and do this whole group together before I release them to do it on their own. So we do practice this whole group. So I always show them, okay, now we want to add something new. And so what do we click to add? And oftentimes they recognize the plus sign is how I add. So we talk about this plus sign over here, what's it going to do? And a lot of times they identify there's this one up here. They realize it's going to add another page. And so they know that that one is going to add another page. So we must want this plus sign over here. That's how I'm going to add characters. So when I click on that plus sign, I can scroll. And again, we're just going to practice that tree problem project. So I'm scrolling and looking for Peg and Cat, and I have to add them one at a time. So I'm going to click on Peg, and then I'm going to click the check mark, and then I'm going to repeat the process. So I'm going to say plus and scroll down until I find Cat, and then I'm going to check mark Cat. So I have my two characters, and then the next thing I want to do is I need to add that background. I'm always super impressed by how they, I like how technology tools kind of use similar icons all the time. Like they know plus means I'm going to add something. A check mark means good, I'm done, I'm ready to submit or move on. They recognize that the picture icon is going to mean probably an image or a background. So they typically know for my background, I'm going to click on that picture. And then again, it has the exact background I want hiding down here. So I can click the check mark. So I can basically set up my problem exactly how it was in that video. So I have my tree, and I have Peg, and I have Cat in my tree. Now what we need to do is decide how we're going to get them out of the tree. How are we going to help them? And this is usually a really fun kind of brainstorming conversation. In the video, they use a ladder. So a lot of them will say ladder. Some of them will start coming up with their own ideas. A popular one has been a trampoline. They want them to jump and hit the trampoline. Some kids have been drawing slides. Somebody found a fire truck and had the ladder on the fire truck, and they came down in the fire truck. So if you have any ideas, you can share them in the chat box or unmute and share. So we usually have this conversation, and then I demonstrate to them how they're going to add that thing, because when I click plus over here, there's not any ladders or trampolines. So this is where I get to draw and create. So if I want to add a ladder, these ones, this always confuses them too. The ones here at the top are because I've done this activity many times. So I've drawn these ladders many times. They won't have those in there, but it does show you that once they draw something, it does stay in the app. So if they draw a snowman or their Santa, like in those examples, they don't have to draw it over and over again. It does stay saved in their drawings. To start a new drawing, I'm going to click the white rectangle, and then I'm going to click the paintbrush. And that opens up my drawing tool. Again, for this activity or project, I'm just drawing whatever helpful tool I want to use to help them get out of the tree. This is the same area we used to draw those snowmen that you saw the kids code, draw the Santa that you saw the kids code. Anything that they want to add in here, that they want to code and make move, they can add it as a character. So the tools in here are a little bit different. So again, I usually go through and show them this. If I want to draw, I have to be on that little squiggle line over there. This is my undo. So if I draw something I don't want, I can undo it real quick. These all draw shapes. So I can draw circles, squares, and triangles. These just kind of change the width of the lines. The tools over here that I use, that I usually show them, are the move button. So for example, especially when we do those snowmen, the shape tool can be kind of tricky because they try actually drawing when really it's just putting your finger down and dragging until you get the shape you want. And then I hit the paint bucket and fill it in. And then when I go to do my next one, sometimes it's hard to drag it right where you want it. So I could click that little arrow up there, and then I can actually move it where I want it to go. The other thing they'll do, so right now I'm on the paint bucket, so they'll go to draw, and what happens is nothing because I'm not on any of those drawing tools. So again, the undo button is really helpful. I have to be on that squiggle line or one of the shapes if I'm trying to draw on the canvas. The scissors are helpful too. The scissors will just kind of cut the things out. This takes a little bit of practice. It took a lot of practice for me because it's just a little different than other drawing tools that we're used to using. We use a lot of pick collage and seesaw. It's a little bit more straightforward in those drawing tools. So this can take a little bit of practice. But it really is pretty cool. Again, when you give them the time to figure it out and learn what they'll create. So I'm just going to quickly draw my ladder, trying to keep an eye on the time here. Oops, see, I'm doing it. I'm not on my squiggle tool. Again, hopefully you had a chance to download the app and you're following along with me as I go, or if you haven't, hopefully you'll have a little bit of a chance to play around later today. So let's say I draw my ladder. I'm going to click the check mark. I'm going to move it over here. Often they'll tell me my ladder isn't tall enough. I could click the plus sign. I could add my ladder in twice and just kind of stack them. That usually makes them a little bit happier when they see that my ladder has reached all the way to the top. So now they're usually pretty pleased, but I remind them, remember we're coding here. So now we want to actually get them out of the tree using that code. You'll notice down here, if I start using the blocks to code right now, I'm actually going to be coding the ladder and making the ladder move, which I don't want to. I want to make the characters move. So I need to tap on peg, and then I can use these blocks at the bottom to make her move. So again, we usually do this whole group together where I'm asking them, what would you like me to do? I do show them the flag. So that green flag is kind of like our go button. And so I always start by clicking that yellow button first and dragging the flag out because I want to be able to hit the flag and make everything begin to move. And then we go back to the directions. There are other buttons hiding in here. Again, if you go to those resource pages, you can see what these do. Again, these PBS Kids lessons are scaffolded. So this first lesson, we really are only using these, the flag and then the buttons in that blue section there, and not really investigating the others. Each of the lessons will kind of show the students more of those blocks and buttons to use. So for this one, I usually say, okay, what do we do? And they'll say, oh, she has to go that way and then down. So I usually go, okay, let's try it. And then I click on the flag to run it. And then we have a conversation about, we're on the right track, but what do you think we should do? And they'll usually say it has to be more. She didn't go far enough. She didn't go down far enough. They'll usually begin by just kind of trying to drag many of these blocks, which is fine. They could drag a bunch of those. I usually try to show them they can also just change the number. So if I tap right on that number, I could change that to say 5. So instead of having to drag 5 of the down arrows, I could just do 1 down arrow and then have it do 5 times. This reset button is important. That will reset to where she began. So then I can give it a go again and see if my next time worked any better. So I can click the flag now. And now she is just about there. I might add maybe 2 more to that. So again, it's that trying something, giving it a go, looking at what didn't work, where could I make some changes, resetting and trying again. So I love that problem solving. And then I say, okay, we got her down. Now, what do we need to do? So now I click on cat, and I would basically follow that same process for him. Think about what I need to do to get him down. I will show them the grid that's up at the top. Sometimes that's helpful too, if they're trying to figure out how many times should cat go down. Now they could use that grid and they could just count those numbers. What I like about using the flag is, let's say I'm just going to say 10 for him. I'm going to reset it and run it. Since I started them both on the flag, they'll both begin at the same time, whatever I want them to do. And then I can take that grid away if I don't want them there anymore. So again, that's a pretty simple project with lots of support to help those students get started. I've done it with kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. All of them have been successful. All of them have enjoyed it. It wasn't too easy for the 2nd graders. They will sometimes get a little bit more elaborate in, what they draw and how they want to solve the problem, but it was successful and fun in all of those 3 grades that I used it in. Just a quick note about screen recording. I do have screen recording on my iPad, so you can see the screen record button. So again, with 1st and 2nd graders, I usually teach them how to use that, and they can click the record and make that video if we want to share it somewhere. Kindergarten, at least for a while, I usually walk around and record it for them, but that is how I share those projects. There's otherwise not like a great, they all save to Scratch Junior. So they're all saved here in their app automatically, but there's not a great way to save it like to your camera roll or put it on Seesaw or something without doing that screen record. So we have a few minutes left. I just want to pause for a minute and see what kind of questions you have just about the app itself. If you had a chance to kind of follow along, if you have the app in front of you. It could be used in pre-K as well. Again, with maybe small groups, I would maybe, instead of doing pre-K, like a whole group, maybe if I had 1 or 2 kids, I could kind of pull them back and show them how to use it. I've used it K too. So I've done it with kindergarten. And after doing it with kindergarten, I would say, pre-K with help and support could definitely do it, because I'm really pretty impressed with how quickly those kindergartners are able to figure it out. And again, sometimes there's kids who get stuck, and then I love watching that communication and that collaboration that happens. The one kid that just figured it out and is going to town is so eager then to be able to help and support his friends. And so I absolutely love watching that collaboration that happens. Great question. Lacey said, is there a time limit for the animation they create? Yes, and that can be totally up to you, but I think that's a great, that little snippet of that Santa one that I showed you, that example, those were so fun. But I mean, some of them took I mean, I go to a classroom for about an hour to do these lessons, and some of them took about 45 minutes just drawing their Santas. And so after a couple of times of that, I did exactly what you suggested, Lacey. I would say, okay, I'm setting my timer. And again, it just kind of depends on how much time you have. I could say you've got 15 minutes or 20 minutes to draw the Santas. For this project here, I mean, really, they shouldn't need more than 5 or 10 minutes to do the actual drawing part. So the lesson plan in the PBS Kids kind of breaks it down for you with suggested times. But I think you can sort of adjust that knowing your kids and knowing the amount of time you actually have. But I do think it makes sense, kind of like when we're writing with our kids, if we let them sketch a picture first, I always had to say, okay, I'm setting my timer for 5 minutes for the picture sketch, then you have to start writing. Otherwise, they spend all their time sketching. Same kind of idea here. So definitely a great idea to determine the amount of time and have a little timer or something. Okay. Any other questions? I just kind of put up the screen right here. Again, if you have the app in front of you, I was nervous. I was reluctant. The best thing I did was just try it. And the first times I did it, I told you it was messy. I didn't use the lesson plans. I was just sort of like, let's play and explore. And I was in a first grade class, and they were just sort of adding stickers and pulling down blocks. And it was kind of a big chaotic jumble, but they figured out how to make the things move. They were super engaged. They were figuring it out. It really then helped me kind of get over the hump of, this is scary. We were able to do it. And then from there, I kind of just started learning some better supports. Again, utilizing the resources from PBS Kids website or the Scratch Junior website to really help me get started with those lessons, I think was helpful because it helps them be a little bit more focused and intentional on what they're creating. Any other questions? The last slide here has my contact info. If you're on social media, I am on Twitter quite a bit, just my name. On Instagram, it's my work Instagram. So we're the Billings Public Schools Tech Integration Specialist. So it's BPSTIS. My email is here. And then I also put a link to a Wakelet collection I've been keeping as I see cool ideas or new programs or apps for coding with littles. I'm putting them in this collection. So there's a link to that collection that might be useful there too. Lacey, I think you could definitely use it with 4th grade, maybe not the PBS one, maybe the regular Scratch Junior. It has, I guess, more generic like characters and stickers and things in there. But I think they would absolutely love it, especially, again, if you give them sort of a direction, like tell a story, or we learned this, show us what you learned, or that kind of thing. I think they would love, there's like cars and stuff in there, and they can make the cars drive and things like that. There is also regular Scratch. So this is Scratch Junior. There's the regular Scratch program, which is a web-based program. And I truly, because I work with littles, I haven't really looked at it too much. So that might be worth looking at just the regular Scratch program too, and seeing if that would be useful. So good question. We run into this too. To download Scratch on the Chromebook, will they be able to, or is it going to be blocked? That's going to depend on your school and district. I know we have to go through a process of getting those apps kind of like whitelisted, they call it, so they're okay to install. I will say the big things that our district looks at is collecting data. There's no login for students. It doesn't collect any kind of data or personal information. That's usually the biggest one. So if we tell them it's not collecting anything, usually they'll be a lot quicker in going ahead and getting that okayed and installed, but it is going to depend on your school or district.
Okay. We'd like to say mahalo to Traci Piltz and for everyone's participation. We hope that you found this session helpful and make some valuable connections. Please help us complete the survey on the iTeach808 website. So the website I have already added to the group, but I will add it one more time right now. It's at the bottom. The survey will also be sent to the email addresses that you had registered with. So please make sure to check your spam folder from any emails from iTeach808hawaii@gmail.com. You will be entered to win one of 20 $5 Target gift cards if you complete the survey by February 4th. So thank you so much for being here today. Feel free to join the other sessions that are coming up and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.